within our sprint.
Come again, Kaza?
Uh, but we will be independently testing this ticket during our sprint. And once we have our test case ready and we validate this individually, we can add the test case into an end-to-end test that we're going to be doing for the future, which will be the whole edit travel dates functionality testing. That will
Yes,
be
Kasif,
the order, right?
see, if
Yeah.
both are together, then you would be including, we just need to make sure that it's included as part of the validation. It's not just one or two flows, it has combination of validation that has to be done. That we need to consider. That's what I'm saying. So there are hotels, because these are assigned automatically, right? The combinations. So certain hotels will have an express pass. Certain hotels will not have express passes. So if you're going to pick up for the edit travel dates where the express pass is not there and you're going to test, that will not validate this particular scenario. You need to pick up the hotel that has the express passes to check. Because there was also one input that Ifan had provided, the order of the express pass on the RHR rail. Um, okay, user will not be presented with option to add express pass. Okay, okay, got it. Yeah. In that case, we just have to make sure the flow is covered uh, that
Yeah,
has
that's
express
right.
passes versus not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We'll add this flow as part of our end-to-end testing. If they, you know, the sequence of our testing will be first we validate these tickets, we test these tickets as per our test cases, and then once we approve these approved, then we go ahead with the end-to-end testing, right? But what you were saying, something like validating it together, that part I'm just not understanding what you mean by that.
So our end-to-end scenarios do not cover all the whatever is existing that we had automated, right? Does not cover
Mhm.
these scenarios or a combination of
Yes.
test data, correct? Because if we had done
Yes,
that,
that's right.
if our regression would have covered that, our end-to-end scenarios, then
Mhm.
we wouldn't have got all the bugs in QA. So I know there's a gap that is there because of the test data combinations that we are selecting, the dates that we are selecting. So this is based upon dates, Kasif. So if you're selecting anything in next
Okay.
month, this issue might not occur. But if you're just selecting after a month with 3-day combination or a 5-day combination, then this issue will occur. And our end-to-end scenarios does not cover that combination of testing. That's what we have to cover during our manual validation. If you're going to go
Okay.
into a combination of test and automation, yes, our scripts can be expanded to do that. We can include these scenarios. So we do it automation or manual. We have to make sure this has to be tested.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll accordingly add these flows
Yeah.
as well. Eric, you had a question?
Well, I thought I did, but I see that I'd forgotten that we had already pointed this, and it already says medium effort for dev. I was just going to say that I see the acceptance criteria are probably pretty well defined based on the spike, but that I still didn't have a sense of what the dev effort was, and I was going to just ask Surya to um, give his thoughts on that. But I guess we already refined this at some point. So, Surya, do you agree that it's medium effort on dev?
Yeah, I think medium should be fine, Eric. So when
Yeah.
we were working on that spike, we already did some sort of implementation to see if this works, but
Okay.
we haven't like integrated that with the travel dates code and see if it works or not. So I think next step will be taking that solution and using that in the travel dates branch with
Okay.
the travel dates
Gotcha.
code.
All
So
right.
is the intention to merge this in post edit travel dates or with that or before it?
Ideally with.
Okay. I thought
So then,
I thought that our plan for edit travel dates was kind of I guess that incremental, small chunks. So it feels to me like taking this ticket and joining it to edit travel dates defeats the purpose of that. It's one more ticket that has to be validated along with edit travel dates, which drags on the validation process, all of that.
So I hear you. The upsell flow was always something that we were going to want to clean up with the MVP of edit travel dates, just to make sure that we're not leaving out critical information for our guests when they're shopping. We've taken out a lot of this epic. The only thing that I want to add in that wasn't already there would be these upsell flows. And then after that, it's just a matter of testing. I have an entire fast follow epic that I'm happy to send you, but do we feel like adding the upsell flows and closing that loop is going to, if it's truly the only additional thing that we're adding, is going to make it so drastic that it would jeopardize the feasibility of the release?
Well, I'm not saying that. I just remember kind of what we went through with the last attempt at ETD, and there are a lot of red herrings in there, like API failures, stuff like that. So I think that packages as a whole is really kind of just wild. You never know what the environment's going to do, regardless of where you're pointing, and for lower environments, and just trying to keep it simple. But if whoever's going to be working on it thinks that it's not an issue, both from dev and testing side, then I guess we're good.
So what will be the sequence then? I mean, are we going to work on this ticket? The code will be fixed, tested, and then we go to the end-to-end testing, or we do this and then parallelly the end-to-end testing will happen?
Ideally it has to be sequential, right? First we
Yeah,
validate all the open upsell bugs and we get the fixes in. We validate the fixes and then we put our heads down and get the end-to-end testing done to avoid any issues that can arise with these changes.
Okay.
So then just an add-on, let's have the end-to-end test like as if we are doing a regression from our end of all the edit travel dates. So there are some 20, 30 bugs that are there, which has to be tested across. Some
Yeah.
might be applicable, some might not be applicable, but we need to retest everything to make sure that they are all working fine, and then do a regression and then sign off for QA.
Exactly. That's what the plan is, but the only thing we need to decide on is that it has to be a sequential effort.
Exactly, agreed.
Okay. All right, then, Fiona, is there any more like this? Any other
Just one
bug?
more.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I have that, but before I go off on that tangent, I do want to validate that we still feel like the 5 is appropriate both from the development side and the testing side. I know we haven't gotten a chance to talk about it, and I believe the person, that was last assigned, this was Tony. So I do want to make sure that if we're, reassigning this ticket to both a new dev and a new QA person, that they feel like this is an appropriate value for this. Past, I haven't heard too much besides, obviously what we're thinking about from a grand picture perspective, but how do we feel about for the testing of this individual chunk?
Okay, then very quickly, can people give thumbs up if they feel 5 is an accurate estimate on this? Perfect. And then Surya, are you okay to pick this ticket up?
Wait, we might, Surya
No?
won't be able to pick this up, right? Because he's a
Well,
content
I think
dev.
that brings us back to the question of when's the split occurring. So
Oh, okay. We are going, yeah, I didn't think about that. This one will have to be Eric Jordan Hurry then.
Here, let's look at assigning things afterward. I know we're already a half hour
Okay.
in, and then we can maybe look at reassigning things either offline or after we've gotten through some of these. So the second one here, and this this one is a little bit more vague, but it's still one that I want to address. Eric, it actually looks like you've got through all the development work of this already and already had an MR up, and that James was in the middle of testing it when we eventually decided to revert. So just wanted to check in with you here. This is when we're just generally the upsell flow is failing. I have a feeling that some of this probably was a sign of, you know, we were seeing a lot of instability there, but it seems like you already had a fix. So just wanted to check in and see if this fix is still something that you have and if there's really any additional work that would need to go into this, or if we're good to just, you know, basically put it straight into test at this point.
If I remember correctly, I think you're right. I think I had this fixed. And James, you can tell me if you remember the same, that there was a problem, but then we tested again and it looked like the problem was resolved. And then we aborted everything and pulled it out of the 25.3. Is that what you remember? Like, I think we were good on this one.
I'm not sure on this.
I mean, Fiona, we'll have to double check again, but
Yeah.
I can take a look. I mean, I think that the upsell issues had been resolved on the dev side.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that you're right and this is just testing, but I'll have to check it out.
Well, then in that case, then maybe we leave the existing pointing on it for now, and then if we need to change it up or down before the start of the next sprint, we can chat about that once you've had a chance to take a look. Since you'll likely be the, you know, person that'll be working on this anyways. So
Yeah.
okay, cool, perfect. All right, so then these two tickets are both in 6.4, so those will be ready to bring in eventually. I think the next thing that I want to talk about with the remaining time is our testing plan, and then what it'll look like to bring this code back into the appropriate environment. Let's see here. So before, if you guys recall, and this is just us taking a little jog down memory lane, we had a end-to-end flow testing for the main epic, and then we also had an upsell modal entry flow epic as well. Now I know that this end-to-end testing left us with a decent amount of load on the regression testing team, and so I do want to just quickly talk about, like, do we feel as though splitting it up this way still makes sense? Are there, you know, lessons learned or things particularly that were straining regression that we would like to add in? This one's kind of complicated, right? Because for me, the acceptance criteria really is what we're seeing in the epic. I added in the detail that we requested about, you know, the errors, and I think now we have like a better idea also of just what we're looking to see as we move through this. So I guess really these are more just like the test cases, and so that's why I want to collaborate a little bit closer with you all and see what you think in terms of what we might like to add or rely on automation for.
So for this ticket, one of the key things that came out of it was the additional workflows related to upsell that Hannah mentioned, that we need to go beyond whatever is currently available for the month that we're testing. We need to validate a later timeline, later dates to just to validate a different combination of the test data. That was something which was we need to add as an improvement on this test plan. And other thing is that we need to add a statement of work in this ticket, which will be relating to the 30 tickets that are assigned to the epic. those need to be validated and commented. We need to add comment with the current behavior or working as expected to those 30 tickets as well, which will be a part of this end-to-end testing as well. So those two things we need to mention in this ticket. We will account for as subtasks on these tickets if we want to segregate them on different people. But as the primary ticket, I think it is important that we add it.
Okay, and I noticed that you mentioned something about the upsell flow. So back when we first did this, we separated it by like traditional entry points and then upsell entry points for these two efforts. And I think that was largely just because James and Tony were the people tackling it, and it was an easy way to split it among two people. But would you prefer then that this ticket is just put together all as one, and then just again, like you guys can divvy up the work as needed and assign subtasks just to reflect on what each person is doing?
I thought it worked well last time when we split it up that way. Because you're kind of keeping similar flows together. One thing I did want to mention on this though, when we first tested these, there was some kind of ambiguity around like what actions would trigger certain messages when you edit these dates. And I want to say, Eric, you just did some research on this, didn't you? Maybe that could be added to.
Oh yeah, he has the whole document.
Yeah.
I can add that to the testing ticket so that we can reference back to it as we go through it.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
would be helpful because we weren't necessarily quite sure like how some of those messages would get triggered last time we did the testing, so it was kind of best guess.
Yeah. Okay. So this is obviously the old legacy ticket, and same thing with upsell. I'm happy to make another upsell flow ticket and traditional entry point flow ticket if that still makes sense for this team, and then I can add the documentation that Eric had, or at least link it from wherever it is in the SharePoint, just for everybody's reference as well, if that would be helpful. And then of course we can still do subtasks if needed for folks in the team who need it. I'm open to ticketing. This is kind of an abstract ticketing process, considering that this is off the Epic. So I'm happy to create tickets in whatever way makes most sense from a resourcing perspective to split this up. And I see your hand up.
Fiona, can we add a reference that the Epic has to be tested and all the bugs part of that Epic and the flows? And in case if any bugs are in to-do status, a comment should be kind of added by the testing team based on Eric's document, right? That those are issues versus not an issue, so that we have a reference when we go into QA, or else it will still land up to be an open questions and open bugs that will be move into QA, and then the questions of prioritization will come into place. And also if we can remove the flow 1 and flow 2, because that just says like only 2 flows have to be tested end to end.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just clone this, and I can start adding in all of the stuff that we're talking about here. I'm trying to think of the way to what to call this. Like, so it's not just, I guess, V2. Okay, we'll go with that for now. We can wordsmith the title later, but not worth getting caught up on right now. Okay, so I can take that out. Let's do this. Team to test ticket within a travel days epic to ensure all one school functioning as intended. Did going through the APLC of the epic as well to end. Um, to, validated. How about that?
Yes, Fiona. And I think last time James did raise a concern about all, I mean, he was not sure about the open questions that were there. So we did come up with a solution. Any questions, anything that they do not know needs to be documented or tracked in a running document and needs to be signed off from the PO before demoing it for ready for acceptance.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember us talking about that. Open questions are to be documented in a working, well, I guess, stay recorded in a working document that will get signed off from the PO before being accepted. And at that point, that might be Allison, but of course, I'll still be there and happy to help depending on when the stuff gets rounded out. Okay. Anything else, team?
Yeah, so I just want to understand, is the goal here to merge this branch in to the latest feature branch and then start testing, or are we going to deploy the edit travel dates branch, having been caught up, and test it before it gets merged in? What is our strategy?
I think I'd defer to Eric on that one.
I mean, my preference would be to keep the edit travel dates branch, just make sure that all the latest code has been merged into it and test that if possible, just because there's a lot of stuff in this and I really don't want to have to revert it if we can help it. But yeah, I mean, we should discuss that and confirm that at some point if it's okay for us to do it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I know UDX does the same thing with some big stuff like the Visa ticket offering. I think they kept that in a separate branch and then tested it in that branch deployed. So I think that's the way to go.
Jordan, I have a question. So the separate branch so the edit travel dates will be deployed on the latest branch that has gone for production, right? That code is what the edit travel dates will be topped upon.
Yes, it would.
Okay.
So like if our current branch is 25.6, then hopefully it would be up to date with 25.6.0 code, but we just won't merge it into 25.6.0. We would get it up to date and then deploy the ETD branch to a feature environment and test that before we merge it in.
Merge it to the, so,
Okay.
so
Yes.
on that, I have another question. So the two bugs which we are working, we are going to pick next sprint, will they be then merged on the edit travel date branch?
Should be, Simran.
Right?
Should be.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So Simran, I think we did discuss about this. So I mean, I don't know when this work would be coming, if it's next sprint. Can we have at least some percentage of prep work started before we start the main stories and all, like the QA team? Because I think from the development side, Eric has gone through the code and knows what is currently available. But from the QA side, if we can start reviewing all the bugs And in case we still have open questions, start the document, because we don't want to give after during the sign off, right? It should be
Yes.
given to the product at the earliest so that they can start answering the questions. And in case there are any questions they have to uh, get back and get more details, they can start working along. I think Allison has to work with the other Allison also, because in case if there are open questions and discussions that has to happen. So we need to give everyone the time. And with packages, what we saw with edit travel dates was we ran out of the time. So if you can start the prep at the earlier stage, allocating some time as a spike to the QA, that would be good.
So we already started that initial discussion, Hannah, before this refinement call with Kashif, James, just how to approach this work. We want to know the timeline on what exactly is expected from us. So now we have 2 bugs. So now since we have those 2 bugs, and as and when people have capacity, or in this sprint, if not earliest by next sprint, which is 6.4. Is when those bug fixes, will be happening, and simultaneously the prep work will start happening, the documentation and validating whatever we need to, as and when the bugs are resolved, fixed, merged to the branch. The testing team by that time will have a strategy in place, who takes what, who tests what, and we will immediately get to that. But it will take not just a sprint, but probably maybe around 2 sprints to fully get this done. That's what we are looking at. So next sprint and the sprint after, 2 sprints is when we are going to consolidate this work and focus on it. On the testing part, again, we are not there yet in the discussion, but James, Kashif, and Jason, 3 people fully dedicated to the testing. Leave it to them on who takes what, yeah. But whenever the testing work will be taken up, William and Diego parallelly will take up the other sprint testing work, but we'll be careful to pick up items which are not of critical nature, which they can handle on their own, without needing or having any dependency on Kashif, James, and Jason, so they can focus on this. That's the high level, but as we keep progressing, we'll have a more streamlined plan. Sounds good?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted something similar to how stack entitlement went, where we had a very clean slate when we moved into higher environments. I wish it happens to edit travel dates the 3rd time when we are trying it out. So
Fast. And also Fiona will be gone, I think, right? Next sprint. Eric will be gone half of next sprint. Just calling it out. So yeah. Okay. Can be. And then, sorry, Fiona, are we making 2 tickets for the end-to-end testing and then 1 for automation? So there'll be 3 tickets in total. What are we planning on?
Okay, so the automation's a good question. I mean, frankly, I don't usually make the tickets for automation, so I'll let them do what they must. But I believe there's some that got blocked actually that are still existing. So in the case that you want to save yourselves some time, yeah, I noticed that we have blocked automation tickets existing in the Epic as is, so that might be helpful. Otherwise though, yeah, so I'm just working on this one right now. This is the main flow. I'll also clone this for the upsell flow as well. Right now I have them parked in 6.5. I'm assuming that I don't think these are going to be anything less than an 8, but if we feel like they're going to be like anything more than that, like let's certainly talk about that, because I know that this is going to be something that'll probably be split across a few different resources. So I'd be open to breaking Agile a little bit here if something needed to be higher. Just on.
Yeah, let's keep it for 8 for now, and then as and when we are closer, we can talk about it. What I suggest is maybe for the next sprint at least, right, while the 2 bugs are being worked upon, for the testing team, if we can have a ticket which will be just documenting and just preparing, kind of like you call it a spike or call it whatever, prep work for the end-to-end edit travel date testing, just to capture that effort, because all the 35 items under the main Epic, they need to be looked into.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to create like a testing spike.
And why why I'm suggesting that is because then, if it's on the board, then every day in the DSU, it will be discussed and there will be accountability for it. That's all. Otherwise, if we say, oh, whenever you have some free time, look into it, nobody has free time either.
No, I think that's totally understandable. So, okay, what then I can do is on my list, I have, well, first of all, I just need to make a sister ticket to this with the upsell flows, and then I could put a smaller spike ticket in the next sprint for someone to look into the overall Epic testing strategy. The only other, and I don't know, we can talk about points there in a second, but the only other thing that I would want to check in on is, do we need something similar for development to pull this work into its own special branch, or do we kind of already have that set up?
We had one ticket, 152610, prepare code for edit travel date testing. We can, if you want, reopen that or create something similar. And again, asking to put it on board simply because, usually we have a dev and test combined ticket, so we know where to link MRs and stuff. But if we have a ticket for that, so we can park all the details there.
Yeah, here, let me just reopen this then, that's fine. Okay, I just marked that for next sprint, so cool.
If Fiona, a request if you can attach the email from the Tricep team, everyone will have the visibility that everything is working as expected.
Okay, let me just add these because that I need to attach that plus the.
Yeah, I think the Tricep was not worried about all the issues that was logged and they were okay with how it was working, so.
Yeah, the Tricep email and Eric error message Scotty. Cool. And then I can do that after this. Okay. Sounds good. So I owe you guys a testing ticket or test planning ticket for next sprint. A clone of this ticket. Let me just do that now, honestly. It'll probably make it easier. Not clone the attachment. So 1, 2, and 4. Okay. All right, so we have that. We have the ticket to reflect Eric doing his work to pull stuff back in, and then, okay, these tickets can mostly, yeah. Yep. Okay. Cool. So then we got these two going. I think we'll be okay. The only other thing that we'll want to validate, and again, this is in the Epic, so we'll be able to do it. There's one leftover ticket that we didn't talk about that's still open in the Epic. I believe that this was actually solved for when we initially brought some of our issues to Tricep back in like November. So I'll leave this one in the Epic for now, and if the test plan is to go through every ticket in the Epic, then ideally we'll be able to validate this and either close or not. Okay. Any other questions about edit travel dates, what the plan is, considerations? Oh, I'm seeing some chats about code screening.
Well, one small thing, and this is again also checking with everyone and also commenting that since this is a very big effort, I hope it's okay that if we have to take help from the content side of the team, right? Is that okay or no? Will that not be okay? If we have to, if needed.
Well, that's a good question because we have our guest contact center form that also needs to go out. So
Yeah.
I can't have that be jeopardized. That has to go out ASAP, maybe even sooner than a travel date. So if that, I mean,
without
let's talk-
jeopardizing that. No, without jeopardizing that, of course.
Yeah, Simran, let's talk offline about that one. Because I'm also not sure what the folks who signed the contracts for Integers are going to say about that. So let's chat offline. See. Okay. Any other? I'm seeing the stuff about the code freeze. Can we not test over the code freeze? And that would.
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
sure
the
when that-
question was, what if I'm reading this right, and I'm thinking like everyone else is, I think the question is this expected to go out before the code freeze, or is it okay to go out after?
I mean, I'm fine if this goes out. Well, when is the code freeze?
I think
Code
it's the
freeze
end of the
starts
month.
the end
Very
of
good.
next week into June, I believe.
Okay. I mean, well, we wouldn't be releasing this before then. This would take quite a while. Honestly, I'm anticipating that we might even tag this to like a late June, early July release if it's possible. Obviously, we don't have those dates quite yet, or at least not that I've seen in the release SharePoint, but I mean, I'm not
So-
trying to do this for a fourth time, so I'm okay if we push this out like to a later release, like the N+1 thing, like I put in the chat.
But I think the in-sprint testing can carry on, right? It's just it will be released in, say, let's say the July release.
Which that's fine with me, guys. I really don't mind. I'm trying to take a look and see what I was trying to see if they had any updates on the July releases, but they don't. But honestly, I mean, I anticipate that this would be like a late June, early July release. I'm not trying to rush this into a release and run into the same issues that we did last time. Which, if we think about it, if we do 6.4 and 6.5, that puts the work ending on June 6th. And then, yeah, that would put us right about at that, again, like late June, early July timeframe. So I have no issue with that. Okay. Cool. Well, I know that we have, let's see here, 6 minutes left. Anything else, team, on edit travel dates? We got 2 testing tickets, 1 preparation ticket. I'll whip up a testing spike for next sprint as well, whilst the 2 upsell tickets are worked on. Any other notes, comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Cool. So just to keep it on your radar, I don't think we really have the time to dig into this, but we have Allison did follow up and make a spike from the ticket that we had talked about previously in her refinement. Allison, I'm not so sure if we're gonna be able to get through it in 5 minutes, but you might be able to throw some points down since it's just a spike, but is that something you want to try now?
We can if you'd like. Just for a refresher, this was fixing the headings not being in the correct order on the page, and we didn't know exactly what we could do with that. So with this spike, we were just going to investigate possible options for fixing it and then document all the findings that we have as potential fixes. And if it comes out that we need to redesign the whole page, then that is also a good finding, but just needed to get some of our options on the table here.
I mean, team, that sounds pretty straightforward to me. Are there any questions or reasons that we can't point this right now with the 4 minutes we got left? Okay. Well then I'll go ahead and open up the poker. 162908. I will send that.
I already posted it. You're good.
Oh, you got it. You're
Beat you to
one
it.
step ahead. This is how you guys know you're in good hands.
Could you guys like give me some clarification of like how do we usually point the spike? Because like in the other team, we didn't have to do this, so.
Yeah, we just point based on dev effort typically. I would say spikes normally don't go. I mean, spikes are normally pointed lower just because they don't have like a QA effort associated with them, and typically it's just based on how strenuous they feel like their research is going to be. If I had to bet, I would say a lot of these are like 3s, maybe
Okay,
less.
thank you.
All right, go ahead and review. Yeah, 2s and 3s. Jason, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, one thing I don't see actually called out on the ticket is that we need to investigate this for both mobile and desktop, because when you close the filters on mobile, the heading looks that are actually part of the page change.
That's a good call out. Allison, you mind if we add that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, I see we still got some 2s on the board. Anybody feel strongly about their vote or want to talk about it? That's why Jordan pointed as a 3 because of the viewport changes. Okay. Fern, are you okay with a 3?
Absolutely. After hearing the mobile part of it, yes.
Okay, sounds good. I will go ahead and copy that down. And that was a very efficient use of 3 minutes. Okay. The only other thing, and I know that we're not going to be able to get through this in a minute and a half, but I do still have the foundation and landing, hotel and packages, web content, dining, ticket res, sneak tickets for us to take a look at. We'll plan to do that throughout the week. If there's time during refinement, great. If not, we can take as a post-scrum item just because these do have that higher urgency behind them. But again, you guys have done these like a million times at this point, so I'm not too concerned about the pace in which we'll be able to work through these. For Thursday, just as a reminder before I let you all go, we will talk about edit travel dates. I did get the first draft in of the mock-up, so while I don't want to get you guys too excited yet because it's not the final version, she is looking good, and I'm happy to show that to anybody who wants to see it. I need to pull it up again clearly, but still, so we'll be prepared for Thursday's refinement.